I must welcome the ministers here. Minister in the Presidency, Mr. Chabane, will do the cabinet statement. And in the middle, or at the end somewhere, he's going to also allow the Minister of Sports to give a bit more detail about the section that pertains to the sports section. And so without any further ado, let me invite the Minister, Mr. Chabane, to give the cabinet statement. Minister.
Cabinet noted and welcomed that President Jacob Zuma is hosting the President of India, President Patil, who is on state visit in South Africa, the state visit which commenced on the 2nd of May to strengthen the bilateral relations between the two countries. Cabinet also expressed a serious concern on the reported high level of cases of crime and police officers' involvement in various criminal activities, as this is an affront to the confidence and the trust that people should have in the safety and security of the country. Furthermore, Cabinet continues to particularly condemn the sexual violence perpetrated on women, teenagers, and young children. Cabinet has set up a high-level ministerial team. This high-level team is tasked with devising both short-term and long-term measures to deal with the scourge of the escalation of criminality in the country relating to sexual violence. Cabinet appeals to both local and international media to exercise greater sensitivity to the victims of violent crimes, particularly women and children, when reporting on these matters. Cabinet condemns the ongoing public spat by senior police officers and calls on them to stop. Cabinet further call on the South African police not to be distracted from fighting crime and ensure that law and order in the country is maintained. The South African government understands the concerns and issues raised by fellow South Africans around the intolling of the roads in Gauteng, which is why government has gone some way to provide relief to motorists by making concessions with regard to exemptions and also to support SANRAL with over 5 billion rands for this purpose. Cabinet appointed a committee to be chaired by the Deputy President to coordinate all work around the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project. The committee will assess the government's response to the North Gauteng High Court ruling and other related legal matters. It will also meet with appropriate stakeholders in order to find constructive solution and consensus on the outstanding issues. Government would also like to reiterate that the 20 billion investments in the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Program, which started in 2007, will benefit the residents and the economy of Gauteng, which is a major driver of national economy. We must also guard against decisions and actions that may impact negatively on our track record in the prudent management of government finances. Government must ensure that nothing compromises the huge infrastructure program, which is crucial for raising the level of South Africa's economic growth and for raising the standard of living of citizens, especially the poor and the unemployed. Cabinet noted that following the untimely passing away of former Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Honorable Stelo Steka, President Zuma, on behalf of the government as a whole, has conveyed sincere and heartfelt condolences to the former minister's family, friends, and comrades. Cabinet also noted the President's decision to declare the special official funeral for former Minister Steka. The funeral will take place on Saturday, the 12th of May, in Midrand. Cabinet also conveyed its condolences to the Minister of Rural Development and Traditional Affairs, Rural Development and Land Reform, Minister Gugulen Quinty, and family who has lost his mother. On remission of sentences, Cabinet noted with appreciation the detailed briefing given by the Minister of Correctional Services following the presidential announcement on Freedom Day regarding the remission of sentences. Cabinet once more wishes to assure the public that all steps in line with the expectation of the Constitution have been taken to ensure that this remission of sentences do not result in unintended consequences. Cabinet noted the Deputy President's visit to Germany from the 8th to the 9th of May and Finland on the 10th, within the context of promoting North-South cooperation and strengthening existing relations. Cabinet also looks forward to the outcomes of the 22nd World Economic Forum on Africa, which takes place in Ethiopia from the 9th to the 11th of May under the theme Shaping Africa's Transformation. Cabinet also approved the mandate for the COP11 to the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands that will take place in Bucharest, Romania from the 6th to the 13th of July this year. The convention provides the framework for national action and international cooperation for the conservation and wise use of wetlands and their resources. Cabinet also noted progress on the preparations for the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, that is Rio Plus 20, and approved South Africa's position on the following: the green economy in the context of the sustainable development and poverty eradication, the institutional framework for the sustainable development, and the sustainable development goals. This conference will take place in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil from the 20th to the 22nd of June this year to mark the following: the 20th anniversary of the 1992 United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, which took place in Rio de Janeiro. Secondly, the 10th anniversary of the 2002 World Summit on Sustainable Development, which took place in Johannesburg. Cabinet also noted South Africa's commitment to host the Global African Diaspora Summit, the 18th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Governments of the African Union, resolved to convene the Global African Diaspora Summit in South Africa on the 25th of May this year. Cabinet noted that preparations are at an advanced stage to host this summit. About 60 heads of states and governments are expected to attend. Cabinet also noted that South Africa will host an Africa-European Union Energy Partnership Forum scheduled for the 8th to the 10th of May. South Africa will, through this conference, contribute to initiatives that are being launched by the United Nations Development Programme to support the concrete actions on the initiative. Following the public consultation process, Cabinet approved the small-scale fisheries policy and the implementation thereof. The policy seeks to ensure that sustainable consumptive use of marine living resources in a manner that ensures equitable access to resources to reduce and eliminate the barriers experienced by small-scale fisheries. Introduce a range of appropriate mechanisms that will promote an integrated approach in the future and address possible conflicts in the intervening period. Provide a dispensation that will contribute to efforts to eradicate poverty, ensure food security, and promote equity without endangering the ecological sustainability of marine living resources. Accommodate subsistence fisheries effectively, secure the socio-economic rights of subsistence fishers, as well as provide equitable access to marine living resources. Provide for the upliftment of these communities by using appropriate support mechanisms, education and training, infrastructure, and participatory management practices. Cabinet also endorsed the carbon capture and storage roadmap. One of the government's strategic objectives is mitigation against carbon emissions and adaptation to the impact of climate change. South Africa relies heavily on fossil fuels, that is coal, gas, and oil, for energy production. The government's long-term mitigation scenario plan identified carbon capture and storage as one of the options to mitigate carbon dioxide emissions. In addition, South Africa has voluntarily committed to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by 34% by 2020 and by 42% in 2025. on condition that the requisite technological and financial support is provided. Cabinet also approved the National Sports and Recreation Plan. This plan is a major milestone for the country as it paves the way for South Africa to have, for the first time, a unified sports sector with all the role players working towards the same objectives, as well as sports transformation that will be addressed in a holistic way. Cabinet also noted that the approval of the plan will result in the need to review the legal framework of all the South African sports systems, improved institutional mechanism, and the new funding model. Cabinet also approved that South Africa host the 2013 Africa Cup of Nations and the 2014 African Nations Championships. An interministerial committee comprising of ministers of sport, who is convening the committee, Home Affairs, Defense and Military Veterans, Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Finance, International Relations and Cooperations, Trade and Industry, Transport, Tourism, Public Works, Police, Health, State Security, Social Development, and Communications will deal with, amongst other things, the preparations for the 2013 AFCON. Cabinet further approved the host cities of the 2013 AFCON and those of the 2014 African Nations Championships. I'll then ask the Minister of Sport to address you with regard to the issue of the sports plan and also the AFCON competition. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen of the press. First and foremost, with regard to the Africa Cup of Nations, Cabinet has approved the host cities, which will be in the main for the Africa Cup of Nations 2012-2013. Mbombela Stadium, Nelson Mandela Bay, Rustenburg, Royal Bafokeng, and eThekwini, Moses Mabhida. On the CHAN 2014, the following cities will host the CHAN: Polokwane, Kimberley, Mangaung, and Cape Town. It must be noted that these cities will not necessarily use the 2010 Cup Stadium. In the following week, government will meet with SAFA LOC to finalize the local organizing committee for the AFCON 2013. It will also forward names of a team to be part of the LOC. Cabinet has spoken on the government representation as well in relation to the local organizing committee. On relieving financial burden to cities, there is a joint task team consisting of the Sports and Recreation, COCTA, and National Treasury, which will meet with the host cities individually to allay fears and all issues that are related to budgeting matters that are gaps in relation to the budget in the next coming weeks in the context of the Interministerial Committee. On the sports plan, I think it's well said that after the sports indaba, we have adopted now by government for the first time in South Africa the National Sports Plan, which will ensure that we have an integrated approach to sports with regard to development and with regard to issues of funding and so on, so that government also comes to the party and the private sector, and we understand what we want to achieve and give meaning to the concept of a winning nation as South African, understand where we are going, so that by year 2032, South Africa is not the same when it comes to sports and the winning nation and producing athletes and Olympians who are able to take the country and fly the flag even to the higher level in representing South Africa. Thank you.